You are running. I am asking you for 1 minute. Set down whatever you are holding right now. Do not scroll past this. If you scroll past this, you will keep running from the very voice that came to carry your weight. You will carry it alone for another year. I am speaking to you, not to the crowd. I am speaking directly to the one in that room. My beloved child, I see how you fill every room with noise. I know there is something you still do. You reach for your phone at 3 in the morning, knowing before you touch it that there will be nothing there. You turn on the television before you even take your coat off. You do this because you are terrified of what the silence might say to you. But I am telling you what is moving toward you tonight. I am not asking you to believe it yet. I am telling you, if you stay with me, you will understand exactly what that noise is hiding. You will feel the dread lift off your chest, and you will finally know how to sit in a quiet room without bracing yourself for a blow. Type "ready" below to show me you are listening. Let me give you something real before we go any further. Notice your own hands when you walk into an empty house. They immediately reach for a distraction. You turn on a screen or a song, simply to cover the quiet. You have told yourself that you just like having background noise. You have called it a habit. My child, it is not a habit. A full schedule and a loud room are not always signs of a full life. Sometimes they are a wall. You built that wall carefully, so you never have to sit with a question you are not ready to hear. The noise is not entertainment, it is a shelter. A soul can live behind that wall for years and never know the wall is actually there. But that is only the outer layer of what is happening. The truth beneath it is much heavier. There is a reason I only asked you for 1 minute. I did not ask for an hour. I did not ask for a vow of silence. I asked for 60 seconds, and I asked for them tonight. The reason I need that 1 minute is the very thing you have been running from. I am not going to tell you what it is yet. I need to show you the room you have been hiding in first. I know how tired you are. I know the kind of tired that sleep does not fix. You wake up exhausted. You push through the morning. You smile for people who do not see the effort it takes just to stand there. You keep yourself moving because stopping feels dangerous. You believe that if you stop moving, everything you are holding together will fall apart. And worse, you believe that if you stop, I will finally demand something impossible from you. You expect a demand. You expect a reprimand. You think I am waiting in the quiet to tell you where you failed. That is why you keep the schedule so full. You say yes to things when you have absolutely nothing left to give. You say yes without hesitating, and that is what worries me. You do not say yes because you have room. You say yes because saying no feels like becoming someone else. I was there when you answered that call last week. I was there when you took on another burden that belonged to someone else. You smiled and said you could handle it, but inside, you were crumbling. No one in that house knows what it costs to be the one who knows everything. You manage every detail. You remember every date. You carry the emotional weather of the entire family on your own shoulders, and nobody asks how you are doing. If they do ask, your answer leaves your mouth before the question has even finished. You say you are fine. You have said that word so many times that you no longer hear yourself say it. But I hear it. I hear the crack in your voice. I see the tears you hold back until you are alone in the car. You sit in the driveway with the engine off. You give yourself 4 minutes to break down. Then you wipe your face. You open the door. You walk inside and become the person they all need you to be. My child, I was in the car with you. I was sitting right beside you in the dark. You think you have to earn the right to rest. You think you must fix every problem before you are allowed to sit still. That is a lie you learned a long time ago. You learned it from a world that only praises you when you are useful. I do not look at you that way. Your usefulness is not the reason I love you. You do not have to perform for me. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to put the heavy things down. You have carried them bravely, but they were never yours to carry forever. I am not angry with your exhaustion. I am weeping with you in it. The silence you are avoiding is not a courtroom. It is a resting place, and I am waiting for you there. I know the exact thought that is moving through your mind right now. You are thinking that someone simply wrote these words, that someone arranged them and recorded them for a video. You think this is not truly me speaking to you. You tell yourself it is just another voice on the internet trying to get your attention for a few minutes. I am not offended by that thought. I made the part of you that asks it. The caution in you was never a defect in your character. It is armor. You earned that armor honestly because you have been promised things before by people who only wanted something from you. A man sold a false cure is no fool for reading the label the second time. He is careful. I have absolutely no quarrel with careful, so I will not ask you to believe me tonight. Belief is not the price of entry here. I will ask something much smaller of you instead. Notice what happened in your chest a moment ago when these words found the place you have described to no one. You did not decide to feel that sudden warmth. It arrived before your thinking could reach it first. Judge the fruit rather than the messenger. If what you hear tonight makes you gentler in your own house, then you will know what this was. Keep your questions. Bring them with you. I have never needed you to be certain. I have only ever needed you to stay in the room. If you are willing to stay, I want you to make a small declaration. It does not require a massive leap of faith. It only requires honesty. Type, "I stopped running from the quiet below." Do this to show me you are planting your feet on the ground. Do it to prove to yourself that you are no longer letting the fear dictate your evening. Now let us speak about the quiet you are running from. You have prayed for years. You asked in the way you were taught. Then you asked in ways no one ever taught you. And the room stayed perfectly still. You drew a very painful conclusion from my silence. You concluded that I simply said no to you, and you accepted that rejection as your permanent reality. On the hardest nights, you concluded something far worse than a simple no. You decided I was not listening at all. You thought your words went up into an empty ceiling and disappeared. I will not tell you the room was not quiet. It was absolutely quiet. You did not imagine that silence. You did not deserve it either. No one has the right to explain that silence away in a sentence and move on to something more comfortable. You have carried the weight of that stillness like a stone in your pocket. It has made you bitter toward the quiet moments of your life. You avoid the quiet because you think the quiet is where I sit in judgment over you. You expect a demand. You expect me to hand you a list of all the places you fell short, because you think silence is the space where your failures echo the loudest. And so you stay endlessly busy. You keep your calendar completely full from the moment you wake up, surrounding yourself with tasks and obligations and people who constantly need you. You call it a schedule. You call it being responsible for your family. But your busyness is not a schedule at all. It is a shelter. You are using your own exhaustion to hide from my voice. You think that if you keep moving fast enough, you will not have to face the terrifying silence. You wear your fatigue like a heavy shield. You believe that as long as you are working, no one can accuse you of being unworthy, not even me. But silence and refusal are not the same thing. The human heart cannot tell them apart, so it fills the silence with the worst word it knows. I need you to hear something that will begin to dismantle that wall. A father sitting in the dark beside his sleeping child makes no sound at all. The child might wake up in that dark and think he is completely alone in the house. He is wrong about the house. He is not wrong about the dark. The dark was real. It was long. It was frightening. But he was completely wrong about being abandoned. That is why I only asked you for 1 minute. I did not ask for a vow. I did not ask for a grand sacrifice. When you finally give me that single minute of stillness, you will realize the truth. I did not come into the quiet room to demand more effort from you. I came to carry the exact thing you can no longer hold. You have been defending yourself in places where I never asked you to speak. You have been apologizing for seasons that I designed for your protection. The silence was not a punishment. The silence was the space being cleared out. I am clearing the ground so that what I build next will actually have room to stand. I have watched this exact pattern play out 10,000 times. I have seen it happen in 10,000 different houses. There is always the very same sequence of events. First comes the sincere attempt to move forward. Then comes the overwhelming fatigue that shuts your body down. And finally comes the long, quiet season where the person mistakes the wall for their own weakness. I know exactly how this story goes. It does not break where you think it will break. It breaks the day someone finally understands what the delay actually is. I want to show you a specific moment. From your own week, you lost 3 hours the other night. You cannot tell me where those hours went. Your eyes stayed open easily for all of the meaningless tasks. You cleaned the kitchen counter. You organized papers that did not need organizing. You responded to people who were not even waiting for an answer. Then you sat down in front of the one thing that actually matters. You looked closely at the important work. You stared at the letter you needed to write. and within 90 seconds, a heavy blanket came down over your eyes. Suddenly, the surface of your desk desperately needed clearing. Suddenly, there were messages to answer that could have easily waited another week. You got up and walked away from the desk. You carried that familiar shame straight to bed with you. You have carried it exactly like that for 1,000 nights. You have a specific word for yourself on mornings after those nights. You call yourself lazy. You call yourself undisciplined. You say there is something fundamentally wrong with you. You have told yourself that other people simply have more willpower. You believe they were born with a drive that you somehow lack. My child, that word has never fit you. I want that word out of your mouth right now. You have carried other people through years that you barely survived yourself. A lazy soul does not do that. An undisciplined spirit does not bear the burdens of an entire family without breaking. The word is entirely wrong. And because the word is wrong, everything you have built on top of it is wrong too. Here is what is actually happening inside you. The human mind does not resist hard work. The mind only resists exposure. Look closely at the tasks you always avoid. You will quickly find they are never the hardest ones physically. They are the revealing ones. They are the things where you would finally find out what you are truly made of. You would find out whether your best effort is actually enough. So your mind builds a dense fog in front of that door. It loves you, and it has been guarding you since you were very small. It builds the fog and it calls it tomorrow. It is not sabotage. It is a bodyguard who has never been told that the war is finally over. I am going to name this so you can never unsee it again. This is the protective delay. Now I want you to go back with me through all those unfinished things in your life. Look at the drawer full of half-written pages. Look at the brilliant plans you completely abandoned. You were not lazy in those years. You were heavily guarded. Something deep inside you decided long ago that being unfinished was much safer than being measured. It decided that because somewhere in your past, you were measured badly by someone who had no right to hold the scales. You have not been failing to begin. You have been protecting a wound. The years of delay were not a punishment. They were a covering designed to keep you safe until you were strong enough to stand. If you can finally see the truth of this, I want you to leave a record of it. Type "the delay was my covering" in the space below. Do it to declare that you are no longer calling yourself lazy. I read what my children write. So today I am asking you to change your approach. Do not promise me the whole completed project. Promise me 15 minutes. Promise me that you will do the work badly. Open the file. Take out the page. Touch the work with absolutely no intention of doing it well. 15 minutes of deliberately poor work is the only thing the fog cannot survive. The fog exists entirely to protect you from being judged. And there is absolutely nothing to judge in 15 intentionally imperfect minutes. Set the clock. Begin before you feel ready. Readiness has never once arrived first. It always comes in behind the work, and it never comes before it. You take the step, and the readiness naturally follows. Rest here for a moment. Feel the weight of that terrible word falling off your shoulders. You are not lazy. You are fiercely protected. The mechanism that kept you safe is simply no longer required. You can thank it for its service and gently ask it to step aside. The season of hiding in the fog has finally come to an end. You are stepping into a beautiful clearing. You do not have to fight your own mind anymore. The silence in the room is not judging your lack of progress. The silence is making space for you to take one imperfect step. I am sitting right here with you. I will sit with you through every one of those 15 minutes. You are entirely safe to begin. Come with me to a morning 6 months from now. It is a completely ordinary morning. Nothing spectacular has been announced. You wake up long before the alarm sounds, and your feet find the cool floor without a single argument in your head. You walk straight into the kitchen. You hold the warm cup of coffee in your bare hands, and you do not brace yourself for a disaster. Notice carefully what is missing from that quiet room. The heavy tightening behind your ribs is completely gone. You do not run through an exhausting list of problems before the day has even started. The phone lies face down on the table. You do not feel it pulling at your attention, and the absolute silence in the house does not frighten you anymore. You can finally sit in a quiet room and feel entirely safe. That peaceful version of you is not a distant dream. That person already exists right now. They are not being assembled out of parts you do not have yet. That version of you is standing right on the other side of the wall we just named. The distance between you and that beautiful morning is not time. It is permission. Permission is not a magical gift you wait to be handed. Permission is something you speak out loud in a quiet room. You can say it tonight. You can tell the delay it is no longer needed. Say it. And that peaceful morning will start walking toward you. Now let me show you why you need that morning so desperately. Let me describe a physical feeling you know too well. You sleep the whole night through. You stay in bed for 8 hours, but you rise with your jaw already tight. Your shoulders are aching as though you were fighting someone in your sleep. You stand at the kitchen counter, you pour the water, but your mind is somewhere else entirely. A name lights up on your screen. Before you read a single word of the message, your stomach ties itself into hard knots. Your breathing becomes shallow. You immediately start calculating how to fix whatever is wrong. This is not the normal tiredness of a body that worked hard in a field. A body that works hard sleeps deeply and wakes up hungry. This is an entirely different kind of tired. It is a drain on your actual soul. You have a ready explanation for this feeling. You explain it to yourself with brutal patience. You say you are simply getting older. You think you are losing your edge. You believe that your natural strength has quietly given way. You call yourself weak in a tone you would never use on someone you love. Hear me clearly right now. You are not weak. You have never been weak. Here is the plain truth that no one has ever told you. I will tell it to you now. Exhaustion does not come from the weight you were actually given. It comes from the weight you were never given. Somewhere along the way, you began to carry things I never placed in your hands. You took on your grown child's poor decisions. You carried your siblings' unpredictable temper. You managed the peace of a house that is not yours to keep peaceful. You carry another person's emotional weather like a man carrying water in his bare arms. It soaks him completely. It spills the entire way, and he never actually arrives anywhere. I am going to name this condition right now so you can never unsee it. This is the borrowed load. It has your fingerprints all over it, but it was never yours to hold. Now, I want you to look back at your own history with me. Look back at those years gently. The years you called your failing years were not failures. You were hauling. Every single morning you woke up and picked up heavy bags that belonged to other people. Every night you stood in harsh judgment over yourself. You judged yourself because you were walking so slowly. You were never lazy. You were massively loaded down. And a loaded soul that keeps walking is not weak. That soul is remarkably faithful. I saw your profound faithfulness the entire time. I saw it clearly even when all you could see was how far behind you had fallen. You did not fail. You were just carrying the wrong luggage. Today I ask something very small of you. It is not a massive vow. It is not a grand transformation. It is one simple question. Ask it once before you pick anything up today. Did I hand you this? Ask it at the kitchen sink. Ask it before you answer that ringing phone. Pause and listen for the quiet answer. When the answer is no, you must set the burden down. Set it down without a long speech. Set it down without apologizing to anyone. Putting down a weight that I never gave you is not abandonment. It is pure obedience. Begin with one single thing today. One thing is enough for me. You set the burden down. You step back carefully. It feels completely unnatural at first, and you will immediately be tempted to pick the heavy thing right back up because your hands feel strangely empty without it. Do not touch it again. The world will keep spinning without your constant intervention. Your family will survive without you managing their every single emotion. Let them carry their own weather for a single day. You will quickly discover that my grace is perfectly sufficient for them too. Your breathing will physically change. The hard knot in your stomach will finally untangle itself. You will realize how much precious energy it took to manage lives that do not belong to you. The relief will wash over you like a gentle rain. But I know what just rose up in your chest. You are thinking you have heard this all before. You are remembering the very last time you tried to let go. You knelt down in tears. You made the exact same promise. You kept it for 11 days. You broke it on the 12th day. And your exhausting year ended exactly where it began, because the heavy weight simply found its way back to your shoulders. You are telling me the unvarnished truth right now. I will not argue with your own painful history. You lived every difficult hour of it. You felt like a profound hypocrite. You went back to the quiet altar and told me You simply did not have what it takes. You assumed I was terribly disappointed in your lack of follow-through. I was never disappointed. I was there with you for every single one of those long hours. But I need you to hear the vital difference today. What you tried to do before was simply behavior modification. You reached for the outer branch. You woke up earlier. You prayed much longer. You tried to build a strict mental discipline. You carried it heavily until your natural strength finally gave out on you. And human strength always gives out eventually. That is exactly what human strength is meant to do. It was never designed to hold a weight this heavy for this long. I am not asking you to reach for the branch again. I am speaking directly to the hidden root beneath it. I am talking about something you came to believe so many years ago. You no longer experience it as a belief at all. You experience it as the way the world simply operates. You did not fail. You worked faithfully for years on the entirely wrong layer. There is a vast difference between a person who refuses to run and a person who has been running with a sharp stone in their shoe. Sit down with me for a little while. Let me gently show you the hidden stone. Let me describe a quiet evening in your house. The daily work is finally done. The dishes are perfectly clean. You sit down on the couch to finally rest, and within 10 minutes, a deep guilt starts creeping into your stomach. You look around for something else to clean. You suddenly remember an email you forgot to send. You wipe down counters that are already spotless. You cannot simply sit still and enjoy the calm evening. You feel a strange panic rising when there is absolutely nothing left on the schedule. You feel like you are doing something terribly wrong by resting. The peace feels entirely unearned. You have a familiar explanation for this restless feeling. You say you are just a highly productive person. You tell yourself that you simply like a clean house. You call it a strong work ethic. Beloved, that is not a work ethic. It is a profound fear of being absolutely useless. You learned very early in life that human love is highly conditional. You learned that your value is entirely tied to your utility. If you are not fixing a problem for someone, you feel completely invisible. You believe that resting is the exact same thing as becoming worthless. I am going to name this hidden cycle right now so you can finally step out of it. This is the earned rest. It is a cruel master, and it was never my voice driving you to such bitter exhaustion. Look back at the decades you spent proving your worth to people. You gave them your best years. You handed them your vibrant energy until your cup was completely dry. You were not building a lasting legacy. You were paying a heavy debt that you never actually owed to anyone. You thought every single sacrifice would finally buy you their absolute approval. It never did. The people you served just learned to expect more of your precious blood, and they thanked you politely before asking what you were going to do for them tomorrow. Your desperate need to be useful did not secure their unconditional love. It only secured their convenience. That is a heartbreaking truth, but it is the absolute truth that sets you free tonight. You are going to practice something entirely new tomorrow. You will sit in a chair for 10 minutes and do absolutely nothing. You will let the heavy guilt rise up in your chest. You will not move to fix a single thing. You will let the house be messy for 10 solid minutes. You will sit there and remember that you are profoundly loved while doing absolutely nothing of value. Your utility is not your actual identity. You are allowed to simply exist in my loving presence. I do not need you to earn your space in this world. Type I, accept the rest below if you are ready to stop earning your very breath. You sit in that 10 minutes of complete rest. The world does not end, and the sky does not fall down on you. You suddenly realize that your frantic movement was not actually holding the universe together. It was only breaking your own back. The heavy house stands perfectly well without your constant panic, and you can finally breathe deeply. Now I am going to tell you the part that changes everything. You believed that carrying their weight was an act of profound love. You thought you were keeping the people you love completely safe from their own storms. But your constant shielding became a massive wall, and you accidentally stood between them and my capable hands. They never learned to seek my face, because they always had yours. That is a devastating truth to hear. But it is the very truth that releases you from this endless cycle, because you were never meant to be their permanent provider. You are not their ultimate savior. I am the only one who can carry them without breaking. Look back at the moments you called your greatest failures. You thought you failed them because your strength finally gave out. You did not fail them at all. You merely reached the absolute limit of human endurance. And a bridge is not meant to carry a mountain. When a bridge cracks under a massive mountain, the bridge is not defective. The cargo is simply wrong, so ask yourself which one you were in that story. Were you the defective bridge, or were you the one carrying an impossible mountain? Tell me honestly, right now. Type, "I am not what I failed at" below. Do not let the enemy convince you that your exhaustion is a permanent character flaw, because you are profoundly loved. This brings us to the hardest part of your journey. We are walking toward the very center of your quiet pain. You have done all this hard work, and you still feel empty. You have set the impossible mountain down, but you have prayed for years for a specific breakthrough, and you heard absolutely nothing in return, and the sky stayed completely dark. The quiet room felt exactly like a locked door. You poured out your broken heart until there were no words left. You asked in every single way you knew how to ask. Then you sat on the cold floor and waited for a fire that never fell, while the silence grew louder than any noise in your house. You started to believe a terrible lie. You began to believe that I had completely turned my face away from you. I know the exact pressure building inside your tired mind right now. You are deciding whether you can survive another year of this heavy silence. You are looking at the calendar and doing the terrible math of despair because the cost of waiting feels far too high. You are tempted to simply close the door and walk away from the altar forever. Do not walk away yet. Everything I have said up to this moment is entirely true. But there is one thing I have not given you yet, and I have been holding it back on purpose. It would have meant absolutely nothing to you an hour ago. It is a single word. I will call it the final answer. You will not receive it right now. You will receive it after the part that sounds exactly like an ending. So do not go anywhere when it sounds like I am closing this message. The most important thing I have to say to you lives at the very end. The silence you have been fighting is not what you think it is. It is not a harsh rejection, but rather a profound preparation. The heat of this trial is about to reach its absolute peak, and you are standing right on the edge of the great reveal. The heavy pressure is not there to crush you. It is breaking the old vessel so the new wine can pour. Hold your ground today. The long wait is almost over. I am moving the pieces into their final positions. You cannot see the board, but you can feel the shift in the air. The heavy atmosphere is beginning to crack open, and you are about to understand why the answer took so incredibly long. You are about to see the magnificent architecture of your long delay. Stand firm and keep your eyes entirely open. We are entering the deepest waters of your quiet night. You will not drown here. You are going to learn how to walk on top of the waves that terrified you, and the very next thing I show you will permanently dismantle the oldest lie. Keep listening closely to my voice. The silence is finally breaking. You are stepping into the holy light of revelation. Everything you suffered is about to be turned into a powerful weapon. I am handing you the key to the door you have been banging on for years, because the weight was producing a glory you could not comprehend. Breathe deeply and prepare to receive it. There is a prayer you have stopped praying with any real hope. You still say the exact words at night, but you took your deep weight off them a long time ago. Your tired words go up to heaven like a man greeting a neighbor he expects absolutely nothing from. And there is a devastating moment right at the end of it. You catch yourself and think, I have heard this so many times. You sigh and pull the blanket up. You fall asleep feeling completely hollow. You have drawn a very painful conclusion from my profound silence. You concluded that I simply said no to your face. You decided that your tearful request was firmly rejected. And on the hardest nights, you concluded something much worse than a simple no. You believed I was not listening at all. You thought your desperate words went up into a dark and empty ceiling. I will not tell you, the room was not quiet. It was absolutely quiet. You did not imagine that crushing silence. You did not deserve it either. No one has the right to explain that silence away in a quick sentence and move on to something more comfortable. I will not tell you that you asked wrongly. There was no better hour and no truer posture. Anyone who tells you the flaw was in your prayer technique is telling a terrible lie. You prayed perfectly. Here is the vital thing you have not been told. Silence and refusal are not the same thing. The human heart cannot tell them apart. So your tired heart fills the silence with the worst word it knows. It fills the quiet with rejection. But listen to what actually happens in a waiting season. I am going to name this reality right now so you can never unsee it. This is the unfinished yes. Between the asking and the arriving, there is a profound work being done. And the work is not on the water, my child. The work is entirely on the vessel. A massive gift that comes before the hands are truly ready is not a mercy. It is a terrible loss with a beautiful wrapping. I have watched premature blessings break the very people who relentlessly begged for them. I love you too much to let that happen. So some of what you have asked for is still being made ready. Some of it is being made infinitely better than the exact thing you named. And some of it I love you far too much to hand you in the broken shape you asked for it. Look back over the long years you have bitterly called abandoned. You were not being ignored in those dark years. You were being carefully formed in them. Ask yourself honestly what you can carry today that you could not have carried before that waiting began. None of that immense strength came from the instantly answered prayers. All of it came from the long silence you mistakenly thought was harsh rejection. The terrible waiting was never completely empty of me. You simply could not see me working in the dark. I was fiercely working on the one thing you never thought to deeply look at. I was working on you. This brings us to the exact reason I asked you for 1 minute at the very beginning of this message. I did not ask you for a long hour of intense prayer. I did not demand a perfect vow of lifelong devotion. I asked for 60 seconds, and you have fought me for those 60 seconds because you are terrified of what the silence contains. Hear me where you make your deepest decisions. Your busyness is not a busy schedule. It is a heavy shelter from my quiet voice. You desperately avoid the quiet because you expect a harsh demand from me. You expect me to list your failures. You think I will finally expose all your miserable mistakes. So I am ending the argument right now, not softening it, ending it. Lift your tired head and hear the absolute truth. I came to carry your heavy load. I did not come to demand more exhausting effort from you. I want your 1 minute of complete silence so you can finally realize I am holding you. I am not late. You are not the tragic exception to my faithfulness. You are not broken beyond repair. The silence is making beautiful room for the ultimate arrival. I am stepping into your quiet room right now. So I will not ask you to force yourself back into that desperate prayer tonight. I ask you to change exactly one word, where you have been bitterly saying, "Why have you not?" Say instead, "What are you doing?" Say it once out loud before you finally go to sleep. Then give me the 1 minute of silence I asked for. Give me 60 seconds of an uncovered room. Whatever rises in those seconds is what I am trying to say to you. I am warning you about a devastating habit. If you choose to keep running from the quiet, you will successfully avoid the temporary pain. But you will also miss the glorious arrival of the very thing you prayed for. You will spend the next year desperately asking me for the exact peace that was sitting in front of you tonight, and you will have walked right past it. You will be too busy managing the loud noise to hear the soft knock on your own door. On the day you finally collapse from the exhaustion, you will reach for my voice and find only the fragments you were willing to sit through. I am standing between you and that terrible outcome right now. I am absolutely not moving, but you have to stay where my hand can reach you. I refuse to let you walk into another year of this exhausting performance. That is exactly why my voice is this loud tonight. I am breaking the cycle of your endless running before it breaks you. The door stands completely open right now. Stop running. Let the silence do its holy work in your tired soul. What comes next is going to sound like the end. The voice will slow down. The words will get much shorter. That is not the end, my child. That is the actual doorway. The last thing I kept is still in my hands, and it is handed over on the other side of it. Stay with me for these final moments. I am not asking you for anything else tonight. I told you earlier that there was one final answer waiting for you. I promised to give it to you after the part that sounds like an ending. The loud teaching is completely finished now. What is left is only between the two of us. I am going to lower my voice for this last part. This is not instruction anymore. It is a profound blessing. Put the notebook down. You do not need to study this. You only need to receive it. You came into this room carrying something you had stopped noticing you were carrying. You are not walking out with it. You are leaving the heavy burden of your own frantic expectations right here on the floor. What you are walking out with instead is much smaller and infinitely better. You are walking out with the absolute knowledge that the long waiting had purposeful hands on it. You are finally receiving the final answer I promised you. And the answer is not a complex strategy for your life. The answer is my permanent presence. I am the quiet room. I am the reliable shelter you have been desperately trying to build with your own 2 hands. Because you stopped running and gave me the minute you thought you could not spare, everything changes tonight. I am moving you out of the noise that served as your fragile shelter. I am bringing you into the deep quiet where you are finally held. You will no longer fill every single room with meaningless sound. You will no longer brace yourself against the silence. You will sit completely still and let me carry what you absolutely cannot. And it will not stop with you alone. The profound peace in your house will teach your children how to actually rest. Somebody in your family line will live differently because of what you bravely refused to pass down. You are breaking a generational cycle of sheer exhaustion. You are planting a totally different seed for the ones who come after you. They will not have to earn their rest because you learned how to freely accept yours. My beloved child, that is exactly what I am doing. If none of this has reached your heart tonight, then perhaps it is not yet your proper season. That is entirely all right. I am not offended in the slightest, and I am not going anywhere. You may close this message and return to your evening. Nothing will be taken from you for walking away. The door does not lock from this side. But if these words found the hidden place you thought no one could see, then do not explain them away tomorrow morning. The stillness you feel in your chest right now is entirely real. It is the solid ground I promised you. I am with you in the car. I am with you in the quiet kitchen at midnight. I have always been right there with you. I have said everything I came to say tonight. The heavy teaching is done. What happens next is entirely up to you. I want you to claim this new reality before you go to sleep. Put your hand on these words and make them your own. You are no longer someone who simply heard a comforting message. You are someone who has claimed their rightful peace. Now go, not quickly. Walk out of here the way a person walks when they finally know they belong. Do one final thing for me now. Say it out loud where you are currently sitting. Then write it down, permanently. Type "I give you this minute" below. Let this place know you stayed to the very end. I read what my children write.